There's nothing quite like that first sip of coffee in the morning. There's just no way to drive this car in the morning and not smile. You know what I mean? It's just one of those cars that just makes you smile every time you drive it. It's so engaging, it's so fun, it's so raw, it's so well balanced. Makes all the right noises. What is happening, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video with your boy Thick Whips. Today we are talking about the E36 M3. Is it a good buy? Is it the right car for you? Should you get one? Now, the majority of you that watch this channel, you probably already know what I'm gonna say about this car. I've only had it for a couple of months now, and dude, I'm in love with it. But I think obviously one of the biggest drawing factors about this car is the price and how much you can get them for right now. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about how much I paid for mine. It's gonna be a good video today, you guys, but before we get into it, today's video is brought to you by Manscaped. Today's video is brought to you guys by Manscaped.com, the global brand for men's grooming and hygiene products. Manscaped offers the best tools and liquid formulations for the big three odor zones: your body, your butt, and your balls. Manscaped has hooked me up today with a bunch of stuff from their all-in-one Perfect Package 4.0. Let's check it out. The first thing to highlight in the Perfect Package kit is the new Lawnmower 4.0. This is Manscaped's 4th generation electric waterproof trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology, which reduces nicks and cuts on the most sensitive regions of the body. It's cordless and waterproof, so you can trim in the shower. That's super convenient and makes for really easy cleanup too. This Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer has a super smart charging system with a wireless charging dock and these little LED lights on the front to show you how much juice you have. Up to 90 minutes of use with a full charge. Tap the button on the front 3 times to enable the travel lock feature. This is great for traveling. Also included in the Perfect Package 4.0 kit are 2 products I never knew I needed until now: the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner Spray. Simply apply the Crop Preserver after your shower for all-day body odor protection. The Crop Reviver is a convenient spritz with cooling aloe vera to quickly refresh the area whenever you need it. Manscaped didn't fall short of thinking of their disposable shaving mat called the Magic Mat. It has a ton of funny content and some hair design recommendations if you're feeling, well, ballsy. You guys, for a limited time, you get all of this plus 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag and the Manscaped Anti-Chafing Boxer Briefs. Go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off plus free international shipping plus 2 free gifts when you use my promo code THICK at checkout. Manscaped, the perfect tools for your family jewels. Thank you for sponsoring today's video, Manscaped. Let's get back into it. So I've owned quite a few BMWs at this point. Manual, automatic, DCT. It's hard to beat the manual in the E36 M3. The way that this car is balanced, the way that the car sounds, the way that it runs through the gears. It's not like the fastest. It doesn't have any forced induction. It's just NA, but it's so good. It's just that raw engineering that sounds good, it feels good. It's not the fastest car in the world, but you don't need it to be fast. I have a 550 horsepower Supra in my garage. Guess what I drive more? I guess just speed isn't always the name of the game. Having the most horsepower isn't always what you want. Now, obviously, when people are buying and building cars, you know, some things are just more important than others to other people. Clean NA sound, man. It's got just the right amount of bite, right amount of rasp. Just beautiful. It's a timeless design. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So I typically make videos like this whenever I get a new car and I start to experience it more and more. I like to talk about how the car makes me feel, what I like about it, the pros, the cons, and kind of just like what the ownership experience has been like, what I paid for it, all that good stuff. So the question here is, how much should I pay for this car? How much can you expect to pay? And is it worth it? What can you expect to go wrong on these cars? Should you buy one of these cars for like maybe one of your first cars? You've wanted to get into BMWs, or maybe you just want to build like a track car, or you've just always wanted one of these E36 M3s. This is what I've learned in the past couple of months of owning this car and going through some of the maintenance items, and this is what you can expect. So right now now, you guys, in general in the US, the used car market is rather inflated, so prices, I think, in my opinion, are probably a bit higher than they typically would be. But you can find these cars anywhere from about 8 to 15,000. If you're looking for like a really pristine one and like low mileage, you're definitely gonna be in the 20s or possibly even 30s. I actually saw one on Auto Trader the other day for $70,000. It was just a very rare color and had extremely low miles. But you can typically expect to pay for like a cleaner one about $10,000. That seems to be about the average. Now, did I pay $10,000 for my E36 M3? No, I did not. But you have to keep in mind, this car was in really bad condition when I bought it. However, with me being a content creator and building these cars up on YouTube, I didn't want a clean one. I wanted one that would give me the perfect opportunity to make content. Now, obviously, for most people, that's probably not gonna make a lot of sense because you're gonna sink a lot of money into it, but thankfully, gratefully, I have a lot of partnerships that help me out with parts, and so it certainly does not hurt my wallet as much as it would if you were just like your average enthusiast or someone who was just buying this car to enjoy it and didn't have the partnerships that I had. So I paid $5,500 for this 96 E36 M3. It was originally black. Well, it was supposed to be black. It was more like a patina and gray color. Most of the paint was badly faded and gone entirely in some of the places, but yeah, it was originally a black car, and it had the tan interior that was in absolutely horrendous condition. So I had my work cut out for me. Now, right now, the car is actually wrapped and painted in Laguna Seca. It's a Nosatec Laguna Seca, and then a couple of parts are painted, like the front bumper, the mirrors, the sunroof delete, the wing. I didn't go for full paint right away because I knew that I would be taking this thing to a track. Down the road, I would like to have this car completely painted in Laguna Seca just because I really like the color on this car. That's the beautiful thing about a wrap. You can throw it onto the car and see if it's actually something that you enjoy or if it's a color that you really like, and it just turns out that this color in this car I fell in love with. So I have owned quite a few different BMWs, BMW M2, an F30 328, E90 M3, Toyota Supra with the B58, but I have had a little bit of experience with a few different BMWs, and I'm telling you what, man, there's just something nostalgic and special about the E36 M3. It's so raw, it's so well balanced, it's so fun to drive, you feel very connected to the car. This is always something that I really enjoyed about driving cars. You know, the Toyota Supra, it's an awesome car, I love it, it's crazy fast, makes way more horsepower than is even necessary for the road, but I kind of just find myself driving this car more because I'm so much more connected to it. I have so much more fun driving this car than driving the Supra. Now, don't get me wrong, the Supra is a great car and it's really cool, but it's just so different, and they're not even comparable, not on any level. They're two entirely different animals. Call me a bit old school, I don't know what it is, I just really enjoy the E36 M3. I think another part of that reason is just because I put so much sweat equity and really so much time and effort into bringing this car back to life. It's kind of like if you were to go get yourself a rescue animal and you nurture that thing and you show it love and it starts to love you back. That's how I feel about this car. I put so much time, effort, blood, sweat, and money into this car, and it has definitely returned the favor for me because driving this thing is just an absolute blessing. So most people probably won't go to the level that I did with this car. I basically replaced everything. All of the moldings are completely brand new. All of the lights, the bulbs, the grills, the emblems, the side markers, a lot of the interior pieces, all of the seals, the gaskets, the trim pieces, they're all new. Everything is new, and it's OEM BMW. So yeah, you can imagine it was not cheap. Some of these parts are really hard to find because these cars are just getting older and older, and the parts are just becoming a bit more rare. Some of the parts BMW doesn't even make anymore, so you have to get really lucky if you find them on eBay. Like these taillights, for example, I really wanted the amber OEM taillights for this car. I just feel like they fit this car, and it's very period specific for this car. But these taillights I could not find from BMW brand new. I actually had to find them on eBay. Ended up buying a couple of different sets because the first set I got were broken, and then these two are from two different sellers, so you kind of have to like mix and match. You have to do a lot of digging and a lot of research to just find the parts for this car. I've made lists and lists of all the parts that I've replaced, and if you guys want to see all that stuff, it's on my website. But it took a lot of time, and it took a lot of research, and it took a lot of effort. In the end, I think that part really shows on this car. Obviously, we did the LTW wing by Mashaw out in California, which is honestly like the best option for that wing. Probably the best quality LTW wing that you can get out there. Super good fitment. I've never seen better fitment on an LTW wing unless it's like factory, but Yeah, it's pretty, it's spot on. There's no sagging, there's no gaps in the middle, everything is perfectly flush. But yeah, I mean, mostly everything was replaced. The diffuser, the trim pieces, I replaced the trunk latch, I replaced all the door handles, like I said, all the trims, I replaced the window motors. Obviously we have the lightweight door cards by Hard Motorsports. We've got Sparco seats. Got a custom steering wheel in suede Alcantara. This is like the M-Tech 2 style steering wheel, and this is custom made by Aza Auto Wheel. Replaced all of the shift boots. I've got the Dynon short throw. I bought a new center console piece because that was missing. Obviously the roll cage, the Macaw rear seat delete. It's pretty clean, man. The whole setup is really well done. And even the carpet is a newer carpet from my buddy Shumile Swift. He's got a silver E36, and I grabbed his gray carpet. Then I have custom floor mats by Coco Mats. So that's kind of just like what I had to do to get it to this point. Now that's just aesthetically, you know, you could get really lucky. If you spent around 10 or 12K, you're probably gonna end up getting one that's in a lot better condition than mine. You know, before we wrapped this car or did any painting, we had to do a lot of sanding, a lot of body work up front, a lot of primer. There were some weird dents, indentations that I ended up using Bondo to fill. If you don't take care of that stuff first, you are gonna see the imperfections through the wrap. So I made sure that the prep work was done right, and that's why it turned out so good. So that's just a little bit about my build so far on the exterior. We have done a few things underneath the car that obviously changed the way that it drives. Now, I do have the KW V3 full coilover suspension on this car, which is incredible. I did just recently do the ZHP steering rack, and so far we have replaced the trans mounts, the universal flex disc, the motor mounts. We did a transmission flush, obviously new power steering fluid. I did all new brakes and brake pads, brake rotors, all 4 corners. So I basically knocked out all of like the easy maintenance stuff so far, and next we're gonna head into some of the deeper stuff like differential mounts, subframe reinforcement, the things that are really going to be changing the way that this car drives, and just longevity maintenance type stuff. But if you buy one of these cars, you know, the engine and the transmission, they are solid. They are going to last you. You gotta do your due diligence, gotta do your research, but if it's been taken care of by someone before you buy it, it will last you. You will, however, more than likely need to replace all of the little things like motor mounts, trans mounts, seals, gaskets. On a 20-something-year-old car, those things just get old. They just dry rot, get old, and fall apart. It's just inevitable that you're gonna have to replace those pieces. And it can get pretty pricey. So you wanna be careful about the ones that you buy. You wanna make sure that you do your research and find one that hasn't been completely neglected, that was maybe taken care of by someone that knew what they were doing. But for the most part, I knew what I was signing up for. Obviously, I knew that this car needed a lot of work, and that kind of got me excited to work on it. I wanted like a project car. I didn't want a total salvage title car. This is a clean title. I wanted a car that was pretty bad, but not terrible, but wouldn't be too expensive. And the great part is, if you have the time and you have the cash to work on a car like this, then this is a fantastic buy. I think for most people, getting into an E36 M3 for around 10 grand is honestly perfect. I mean, you can daily drive this car, you can take it out on the weekends, you can take it to the mountains, you can take it to the track, you can take it to work, you can take it to dinner. I feel like these are fantastic cars that work well in so many different situations. And most importantly, you're gonna retain that manual, authentic NA feeling and sound, and there's just something about driving this car that is so unique and so special. Now, if I weren't a content creator, if I weren't a YouTuber, I would probably go for one that was a little bit more expensive. I'd probably spend closer to like 10 grand and get one that's in really good condition, because I'm not gonna lie, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work to get it to this point. Not everyone wants to sign up for that. But I do think that someday these cars are going to be worth a lot of money. If you take care of them, you do the maintenance. I don't know how much longer we are going to have these NA cars like this with manual transmissions. I really don't see that happening too much longer. We're moving into a world of hybrid engines. We're moving into a world of electric motors. We're moving into a world of automatic transmissions. It's tough to say how many of these in good, clean condition, well-maintained, are going to be left on the planet for us to enjoy. So in my opinion, is this a good buy? Is this a good car for you to own? 100% absolutely. I think it's a fantastic car. Now, I did watch a few other videos of other ownership experiences to just kind of understand what other people thought about them. I mean, some of these guys have these cars in like 300,000+ miles with the same engine that came in the car, the same transmission. I mean, that is insane. The downside to owning one of these cars is you are going to get small little leaks here and there, transmission, oil, things are gonna sweat. It's just the nature of these cars. The S65 and my E90 did the same thing. It's just kind of how it goes with these cars. You can replace the seals and the gaskets and kind of get them to the point where they leak very little, but it's just kind of like one of those things. I know what I signed up for. It's not hurting the car. It's just kind of normal for the car to do that. Welcome to the world of BMWs, I guess. But I don't know, dude. As I get older and I work on cars more and more, and I make more and more content, and I get to experience more cars, I just kind of find myself going backwards in time and enjoying these older cars more than I do these newer cars. You can just do so much to these newer cars and make them absolutely insanely fast, just way too ridiculously overpowered for streets. And honestly, you're never going to use that kind of power. You're never going to be able to transfer that kind of power to the street in a street car. I'm talking like 700-800 horsepower. It just, you go down that rabbit hole of like chasing horsepower in some of those cars, and it's just interesting to me because this is just so much more satisfying. Just an older car that speaks to you, that you are connected to, that is raw and authentic. Now, don't get me wrong, like the Supras and these turbocharged cars, the GTRs that are making like crazy power, I mean, they're sick. There's no doubt about it. They're super cool cars, but like, how often are you going to be able to use that power on the street? You're really not. Like, as you guys know, I recently got my Pure 800 in my Supra, and I honestly haven't driven it that much. Like, I've taken it out, obviously, you know, a few times, but it's just like, where am I gonna use that power? It's like so much power. Unless you're going to like the drag strip or you're constantly doing roll racing, which I don't really do either of those things that often. You know, when I was younger, I was like really into street racing and going to the drag strip, and I just don't really do it that much anymore. Like, yeah, I'll have fun with my friends every now and then, but I just don't really see the point of having that much power in a car like that. You really don't need it. And this just opened my eyes when I bought this older BMW M3. I was like, oh man, this thing's gonna be a pig. It's gonna be boring. It's gonna be slow. And it's been nothing but a blast to drive. I just find myself driving this car way more than the Supra. There's just something about it, rolling through these gears and just the way that it handles and the way that it looks. It's so classic. It's such a timeless look. I love the square body lines. Like, there's something about the square body lines on this car. It's actually kind of the reason I loved the F32. It's because it wasn't quite too round like the G series. It had a little bit of square edge to it. I really like these older, like square designed cars. I just think they look so good. Now, obviously that's not for everyone, but my personal preference, I love the way it looks. And I'll be honest with you guys, as far as like attention goes, you know, like the Supra gets mad attention because it's just a crazy looking Batmobile spaceship looking car. But the people who are like real enthusiasts that track their cars and work on their cars, they love these cars. They have so much respect for the classics, and I'm beginning to learn that. So yeah, you guys, obviously we are early into this venture with this car, and I'm just beginning to fully experience and understand this car, but I love it so much. And if you guys are in the market to buy one of these, man, do it. Oh, trust me, do it. Just make sure that obviously, you know, there's no like serious rust or like subframe cracks or anything crazy like that. I would recommend at least having a PPI done. You can expect to have a little bit of leaking, a little bit of sweating. I mean, mine was like sweating and leaking like crazy when I bought it. We obviously took care of a lot of that stuff already, and there will be some dry rotted pieces in the car, whether it's interior or just engine. Even if it's kept in good condition, it's just old, and that's just like the nature of having an older car. When I was taking apart the interior, I mean, things were literally just like disintegrating in my hands because it's obviously been sitting in the sun and all the plastic and everything just gets brittle. And the same goes for like vacuum hoses and things like that. They're just old, and rubber and plastic isn't gonna last that long. So you can fully expect to have to put some money into that sort of stuff if you want to enjoy it for the long haul. Anyways, I hope this video helps some of you guys out. If you're interested in buying an E36 M3, do it. It's such a fun car. Like, they're so sick, they're so classic, they're so timeless, such a good feel to driving this car, and I think that you can get them for so cheap now. It's just totally worth it. You're like owning a piece of history, and if you take care of it and just keep it, I think down the line you could actually make money on it. Anyways, guys, I hope this video found you well. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you're new here, subscribe. But anyways, just like that, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.